So after losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers 13-10, a game that I had correctly, Steelers -2, the Las Vegas Raiders have decided to step away from Derek Carr. Derek Carr will not be the quarterback of the team for the last 2 games of the season. He will not be with the team. Ultimately, it looks like he's played his last game for Vegas. He will not be on that team next season. They're going with Stidham for the last 2 games. And anybody who's paid attention to the Raiders closely knew that this was bound to happen. The Raiders from the jump, once McDaniels came in, it didn't look like Derek Carr was going to be his guy. We see it all the time. Coaches, they want their guys in the building. They want their quarterback. They want their players, their coaches. And Derek Carr's, he's like the last of the Mohican. He's like the last guy from like the Gruden era, from even before Gruden, who's still been on the team. He's played all 9 seasons with the Raiders. Raiders only 2 playoff appearances in those 9 seasons. A lot of it wasn't due to Carr. If you ask me, I say that Carr is in that second tier of quarterbacks. You got your top tier, the Justin Herberts, the Aaron Rodgers, Brady, the Mahomes, all those guys who no team is ever looking to get off of those guys. But then you have the second tier, Jared Goff, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott. They can win you a ton of games in this league, especially if they have a good team around them. But are they necessarily going to take you to the playoffs or elevate a crappy roster? Not necessarily. Those guys aren't really capable of doing that. And it always feels like the Raiders kind of depend on Carr to do the impossible when he's not that kind of quarterback. And when they don't have the players around him to get the job done. So ultimately, he's the scapegoat in this situation, in my opinion. They left him out to dry this season in more ways than one. I hate to see it because he's actually one of my favorite players in the NFL. I just think he's very underrated, and I like how he goes about his business. Skip and Shannon are going to talk about it. Let's see what they have to say.
Do you think Derek Carr has played his last game ever as a Raider?
Hey, man, where's Derek Carr? He was a starter for 15 games. Where is he now? Oh, he stepped away. What's wrong? Oh, he got benched. That's the distraction. The moment that Josh McDaniels did this was a distraction. Skip, and his last 2 head coaches, they were never in love with Derek Carr. They liked him. They appreciated what he could do, but they never wrapped their arms around him and fully embraced him. I think they
Well, when you look at the Minnesota Vikings and you look at what Kevin O'Connell's doing with Kirk Cousins right now, they're winning a ton of games, especially close games at home. But he's making Kirk Cousins look as good as possible with the play calling. I just don't feel like Josh McDaniels, when you watch the Steelers game, if anybody thinks that sports is rigged, when you watch that Steelers game, why did the Raiders stop running the ball in the snow when Derek Carr doesn't perform that well in those conditions? Why would you start throwing the ball and stop running the ball? If anybody watched the Raiders-Rams, that was also a primetime game. Why did the Raiders stop passing the ball when the passing game was working? Why commit to the run even when they were stopping the run? Why not put up more points against the Rams team with Baker Mayfield? Why not be more aggressive? Because you know if you put up 20, 24 points, Baker Mayfield isn't coming back from that. But instead they played it conservative. They took the ball out of Carr's hand when the run wasn't even working anymore. It was weird. I mean, Carr and Devontae, especially in that first quarter, they were connecting on these big-time plays, and the Raiders just went away from it. Like I said, if anybody thinks sports is rigged, that's like a clear example of like they clearly just didn't want to put Carr in the best situations possible.
Tried and failed. But Skip, I mean, we can trash Derek Carr, but let me tell you, since he's been in the NFL.
And when I mean sports are rigged, I'm not saying like the Raiders are intentionally losing games or the script was just in from top to bottom. But I mean, it's just clear and evident to me, in my opinion, that Derek Carr wasn't the guy for them. They didn't want Derek Carr in the building, so they kind of like the play calling. They put him in tough situations, tried to make him make the most out of things that wasn't really there. His guys were banged up. He just didn't get a fair shake. Renfro, Waller out for most of the year. Devontae's not getting touches, but the ball is moving. They're moving up the field. Devontae starts demanding for the ball. Now he has to force it to Devontae. It just was a mess from top to bottom, and it's unfair that one guy's getting all the blame for that when you can look at the coach and you can see that he hasn't won anywhere he's gone unless he has Tom Brady next to him, and that's just a fact.
He's had the 32nd ranked defense since he's been in the NFL. And here's where they are this year. 31st in takeaways, 30th in sacks, 30th in penalties, 27th in pass defense, 27th in red zone defense, 25th in total defense, tied for 23rd in points allowed, 22nd on third down. But that's Derek Carr. This is what I know also, Skip. Last year with a less talented roster, guess what Derek Carr had this team? In the playoffs.
Exactly. Kevin O'Connell has Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson in the playoffs, but McDaniels doesn't get Derek Carr and Devontae Adams in the playoffs. Whose fault is that? When Derek Carr just got to the playoffs the year before with a chance to beat the Bengals. Now you can't get them into the playoffs with a better roster than an interim head coach had, with all the turmoil they had, Henry Ruggs, John Gruden, all the stuff the Raiders had going on last year. Derek Carr took them to the playoffs. I mean, Derek Carr's not a tier one quarterback to me, but in the tier two group, he's like up there with the best of them, in my opinion. Like, Josh McDaniels really let some opportunities slip away. They blew so many big leads. You're getting a big lead because you have a quarterback that's putting it on the money.
Yeah. Guess where this team now with a.
And when you hear Shannon talk about just how bad the defense is, when people talk about Tom Brady coming to the Raiders or these other quarterbacks that join these teams, if a guy like Tom Brady was to come to the Raiders, all of a sudden the Raiders start winning games, people would say, look what Brady did for this franchise. No. Because if Brady comes, he's probably bringing Shaq Mason to protect him. He's probably bringing Gronk as a security blanket. Different guys are going to come and join the team. Different coaches are going to come and help the coaching staff. It's just going to be a totally better situation for Brady if he comes in. Because if you look at what Brady's doing in Tampa with a better defense and more weapons than Derek Carr has, Tom Brady just isn't doing that much right now. Well, Derek Carr has better weapons when healthy than Tom Brady, but most of his weapons were hurt this year. But you guys get what I'm saying. Tom Brady is going to have a lot better of a situation than Derek Carr, and people are going to act like, oh, it's just the quarterback play that's making the difference. It's just not telling the full story.
With a more talented roster, not in the playoffs. Now, we know this also about Josh McDaniels. Do you think when you want to know what his head coaching record is? Go back and check it, Denver. I know he's a tremendous offensive coordinator.
He is.
When he has Belichick and he has that other guy that happens to be in Tampa.
Yep.
So now tell me when he was the offensive coordinator for the Rams, how he looked. How he looking right now. So
I like Josh McDaniels as a play caller. I think he draws up some great designs. I think he finds ways to get guys open. I mean, there's many plays that Josh McDaniels runs where the wide receiver becomes completely open. Like, I heard the players on, which podcast was it? I Am an Athlete. They were talking about Josh McDaniels, Brandon Marshall, and them. They were talking about how, like, and I mean, it goes to what Shannon's saying about McDaniels looking at film and cheating or whatever the case is. Like, McDaniels is always going to have you kind of prepared offensively as far as, like, if you go here, if you run this route like this, you should be wide open, or just sit right there, and if you get the ball, you're going to have space to move. Like, Josh McDaniels is real good at drawing up plays. I just think sometimes, whether it's clock management or I think it's dialing up that play at the right time, there's just certain things that are a little off. And I think sometimes with these offensive guys, I've talked about this before, they kind of get in their own way a little bit. Like, these coaches have egos, and on fourth and inches, if they're offensive guru, they end up doing an HB toss for a big gain. But potentially getting it blown up instead of just going up the middle and getting the fourth and inches play. Like, that's the thing about, like, Sean Payton or Andy Reid that I can respect, is that they draw up a lot of innovative stuff, but they don't get too carried away with certain things. I think these new offensive play callers, the younger ones, they get a little too carried away.
You keep talking about product of the system, and you talk about Tom Brady made. Boy, Tom Brady made him.
Yep.
And it seems to be without Tom Brady, he's absolutely nothing. I'm not going to excuse Derek Carr play because he's been some.
McDaniels, to his credit, was decent last year with Mac Jones.
Really smelly at points in time this year.
Hey, he is leading the league in interceptions. Go ahead.
Well, hell, I wish his team could lead the league in the interception. I wish it. Skip, you got Max Crosby, you got Chandler Jones, and you're 30th in sacks? How? Skip, Derek Carr, look, I mean, they moved to Vegas, they got John Gruden, and then he has to deal with Antonio Brown shenanigans.
That defense has nothing other than Max Crosby. It's Max Crosby and a bunch of no-names who don't produce at all.
Hard Knocks and Henry Ruggs, DUI, manslaughter. You got John Gruden getting fired.
Yeah.
You got the first-round pick with a gun video.
Yeah.
Defense terrible. Everything. Defense been bad.
Yeah.
Waller and Renfro missing games.
And you got Darren Waller worried more about his rap career with those whack-ass albums than he is about actually getting on the field and making a difference. I mean, like, Darren Waller is the most naturally talented, gifted player on this roster, and he doesn't even suit up for games. That was one of the biggest issues this team had, was the turmoil they were having inside the locker room because Darren Waller just wasn't getting out on the field when they knew that he could. Guys were having worse injuries than he was having, and they were putting their all on the line while Darren Waller was just sitting out because he didn't really buy into the vision of this team. And I'll be very interested to see what happens with Darren Waller if they get a new quarterback, when they get a new quarterback, if they decide to just use Darren Waller as a weapon for that quarterback, if it all is able to fit, or do they just want to get Darren Waller out of the room and maybe get like a second-round pick out of him?
I'll tell you, like, man, we got to do better than I could have stayed in Green Bay.
He could have.
And he's probably wishing he had stayed in Green Bay, but probably not. Probably not. I mean, I don't think he doesn't strike me as the guy that has a
Yeah, Devontae loves being on the West Coast.
whole lot of regret. He's closer to his family, and I know his family means a lot to him. But Skip, I'm not going to look. I don't want to excuse Derek Carr because Derek Carr and that Skip, and I try to wrap my arms around him, but there's just something that every single time that I want to get close to him, something pushes me away.
I agree with that.
And I think that's what pushed John Gruden. John Gruden never, John Gruden loved everybody that he doesn't have to coach. That guy gotcha. If I was coaching right now, I'd love to have that guy. And as soon as he gets that guy, I don't want guy. That guy can't gut you. And Josh McDaniels, like I said, Tom Brady. Give me you come by Coach Belichick. Nobody, whatever he's making, he needs to send half of that paycheck to Tom Brady.
Gruden and Carr actually had some real decent games together. Like they were starting to figure it out before Gruden got the boot. I think Gruden and Carr would have made the playoffs that last year.
For the rest of the time, Tom Brady shouldn't have to work. He should be able to be probably making like $8 million. For that million, you need to go to Tom Brady.
Yep. I am with your takeaway on this. I have tried and tried and tried to wrap my arm around Derek Carr. Seems like a good guy.
Yes.
He's been durable, maybe to a fault, because all he does is start games. He started 91 straight games for them. Brady started 108, but he's second in the NFL in length of consecutive starts.
Man, get him, man, Skip. Don't you know what Jared Stidham is? Did you see Steady in New England? You had Steady in New England.
Yeah, it's clear and obvious that the Raiders are just trying to tank, trying to get a better draft pick. There's no reason to put Stidham out there. Stidham gives you nothing.
They did. Josh had a hand in drafting him. What was he, a fourth-round pick?
Yeah, out of Auburn.
Out of Auburn. I watched him a lot at Auburn. He flashed occasionally. He's got athletic. I watch him at Baylor.
McDaniels is going to bring out his best play calls, a lot of plays that he wasn't running for Carr, and he's going to show those play calls. He's going to showcase them with Stidham just to show future guys, anybody who wants to join the team, whoever's going to come, what this team is capable of doing. They're probably going to get a quarterback in the draft if they don't get like a veteran go-to guy.
He's a big, strong kid with a nice arm, so they want to see, well, what do we got? Well, you don't got Derek Carr because I think you just burned the bridge.
Oh, yeah, it's over. Yeah.
It feels over to me.
Yeah.
Now,
100%.
The Athletic reported that this was not Josh McDaniels' decision. This went to the top. This went to Mark Davis.
Yeah.
He was the one who's just seen enough of Derek Carr.
Skip.
Well, they want to start new. They're in Vegas now. They want to do it big. They're hosting the Super Bowl next year. So they want to do it big. They got Josh McDaniels in there. They said enough is enough. But trust me, McDaniels didn't really want to work with Carr. McDaniels made it evident that he didn't want to work with Carr. He tried to expedite the process. And yeah, Carr's just the lone man in the room because he's just not box office enough for them. And his name just doesn't have the cachet. They want a player, even if they got a Matthew Stafford, healthy Matthew Stafford is probably a little bit better than Carr, but he's proven before and he has a little bit more name recognition. They'd roll out with somebody like that, but Carr just doesn't move the needle enough for them. From a talent perspective, though, I really think if Carr was given a fair shot, if he had a good defense, I think Carr, you could make a playoff run with Derek Carr. I mean, make no bones about it. I tweeted this earlier this week. The Commanders, the Colts, I mean, there's teams out there that are starting Sam Darnold. Like, a lot of people would love to have Derek Carr. The phone lines are going to be ringing for teams that are looking to add Derek Carr to their roster.
His money, $40 million, is guaranteed if he get hurt.
Well, that's another.
You not going to
No, but I'm saying he's ready to move ahead, move a different direction.
Because he got no money after this year.
Okay, you can get out. It would cost you about almost $6 million.
Oh,
so
$6 million.
It's not too bad to get out from under him after this year. So what's happened over the expanse of time? What is it? It's been the Raiders had 2 winning seasons and 2 playoff appearances in Carr's 9 years. That's what it boils down to. Even though he's had runs, he's made 3 Pro Bowls.
Yes.
He's been pretty good.
Yeah.
But he'll get you here, but he can't get you up there.
Correct.
Nobody can get you there with the 32nd ranked defense. That's last in the NFL. Nobody can get you there. Nobody can get you there if their slot wide receiver and their tight end are out. Like, you just can't do that. If you have if a play caller is just doing incompetent stuff, you just can't do it.
I think Mark Davis finally said, you know what? I've just seen enough. Next question, Mark. You're going to replace him with what?
Tom Brady.
Okay. Is it going to be Tom Brady?
Tom Brady.
Okay, well, maybe. Because it's hard to go.
It's very possible. It's very possible that it could be Brady. The thing about Brady is Brady's only coming if he can make sure he gets enough guys around him where that roster is going to be real good. Brady's not going to come into the Raiders with what the Raiders have right now. They're going to have to stack up that defense, stack up that O-line. Things are going to have to change a little bit with the Raiders in order for them to get Brady. But I could very well see that happening. I could see that happening because Brady's not going to be with the Buccaneers next year. The Buccaneers are another team that could use Derek Carr because they're going to need a quarterback. The problem with the Raiders is that their roster has just had so many holes in it for so many years in a row now that they're looking for that big answer, that big equalizer, and they want it to be the quarterback position. They want to get a guy who can just clean up all the mistakes. And there's just only a few of those guys in the league. Like Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, your team can have a bunch of flaws and those guys just brush them over. Derek Carr isn't going to be able to quite do that, but if you just built up the roster a little bit more, put some more time into developing the overall team, give Derek Carr a fair shot. That's my only issue with this is that they're expecting a little too much out of a guy when you're not giving him enough to work with.
Find a young quarterback who's going to immediately be better than Derek Carr. It's hard to go groom somebody and know for a fact they can be better than Derek Carr, who's always been pretty good. He's been pretty good.
I ask you this.
Yep.
Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfro versus Mike Evans, Julio, Godwin, or Otten. Who you want?
Well, obviously. I mean, listen, when they went and got Devontae, if you remember before the year started, I said, this is a playoff team.
Yeah.
And by the way,
well, I was all over the Raiders being under 8.5 wins for the season just because that division and that conference is just so stacked. And because it was kind of obvious that they wanted Carr out of the room and that things weren't going to go so smoothly. So, I mean, just when he signed that contract, no trade clause, but it's a 1-year deal where they can get off of you after the year, it was kind of obvious that this was kind of a make it or break it year, which is too much to ask for in the first year of a new play caller, a whole new environment. Like, McDaniels wasn't just going to come in here and they were just going to take off. That's just not an accurate depiction. You're getting a little too ahead of yourself if you were just assuming the Raiders were going to be a major threat in the NFL this season.
you want to talk about underachieving? They became the first team in NFL history to blow 4 double-digit halftime leads. Never happened before, but they pulled it off this year. Mm-hmm. So you saw flashes. Oh, there they are. There's the Raiders because of what you just said. I mean, Devontae, we thought coming into this year was the best.
Yeah.
Number one.
But Skip, if you look at it, people are like, oh, Devontae.
The best wide receiver in the NFL right now is Justin Jefferson. The second best wide receiver in the league is Davante Adams. The third best receiver in the league is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, because of his speed and his ability to get open and just the threat that he provides, the decoy that he is, you can make a case for Tyreek Hill being one. I really got no problem with that. But Davante Adams and Justin Jefferson, just what they do from a hands perspective, creating space, getting open at all points in time, you could just force feed them. Those are the two best guys in my opinion, with a slight lean to Tyreek Hill third though. But I understand anybody saying Tyreek Hill is the best receiver. I really do. I can make an argument for it just with what he does, the gravity that he has. But the lean has to be Justin Jefferson because he's having the better year this year. And last year I would have said Davante Adams because he was having a great year last year and the year before. So it's going to be between those two guys, and whoever's having a better year really boils down to whoever they have throwing them the football and what the play calls are, how often they're getting involved.
He's fifth in yards. He's tied for first in touchdown.
Justin Jefferson has a little bit more juice because Davante Adams is a little older. Justin Jefferson, the fresh legs, probably a little more balanced, a little more explosive. But Davante's just more precise. It's almost like Kobe Bryant with the number 8 or Kobe Bryant with the number 24. You're not losing either way.
Yep. Now, he doesn't have the catches, the 115 catches that he normally would have, but he's had an unbelievable season. It's just that Justin Jefferson is on pace to have a historic season. We saw Tyreek. Yeah. So it's not like Devontae. I mean, 1250 and 12 touchdowns is nothing to sneeze at.
I got it.
But the expectation for him is 1,500 yards and 16, 17 touchdowns.
Yeah. And by the way, he played in college with this quarterback.
Yes.
And by all accounts, I'm not there, so I don't.
That's the whole reason why he wanted to come, allegedly. I mean, of course, he has family on the West Coast. Him and Aaron Rodgers, they weren't necessarily seeing eye to eye. Rodgers was debating on if he was leaving or not, but a big part of it was Derek Carr was his guy.
I know this for a fact, but I think they're very good friends, and I think it's legit that they're good friends. And the way he spoke yesterday, he spoke like he was speaking of a dear friend.
He's the reason I'm here.
Yeah.
Hold on, what'd you say? You go back and say. You said they're the first team to give a 4 double-digit halftime lead. Mm-hmm. So who that follow?
NFL history.
So when you got the 32nd ranked defense, that's what happened.
Okay.
I mean, the Raiders got, 5 wins right now? That's 4 games decided, blown leads just like that. Those 4 games, if you split them in half, and this team is, 7 wins? We're having a whole different conversation right now, but you blew all those games, and they're not all just on the quarterback. They simply can't be. When you have the worst defense in the league, and when you just are terrible situationally, you can't blame it all on the quarterback.
All right. You can blame.
And everybody knows it, and that's why their lines are going to be ringing with people looking to add Derek Carr in the offseason.
Blame a lot of people. You can blame the head coach. And I'm with you on Josh McDaniels. I really like him as a play caller and a coordinator, but that's who he is. Yeah. And that's what he is. And by the way, he was a lot better play caller when he had that guy down in Tampa.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure about it.
It's amazing skill when you don't know, that hand signal. Hey!
Yeah, Josh McDaniels be cheating his ass off. Josh McDaniels, I think, is great as an offensive play caller, but as a head coach, it's almost like I wish that they could get Peyton in as a coach and have Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. I just don't really like Josh McDaniels as the head coach, but we'll see how that turns out. He does draw up great plays, and he has a lot of connections in the league, so I wouldn't be surprised if it worked out.
They've been checking this defense without the cameras available. All I know is he tried it. What they were guilty of in New England, he went to Denver and pulled the same shenanigans.
He did.
And then he tried it. He goes to Denver, Skip, and he had a system, and it didn't work. He goes back to he goes to New England, and they win Super Bowls again because of that guy, that 6'5" guy, Tom Brady, that can't run, but he can throw the football, and he's the best. He goes to Oakland right now, and they came out of the playoffs.
They did.
And had Cincinnati. They were throwing in the end zone with a chance to win the game at Cincinnati.
Facts.
I hear you with Rick Bisaccia as the
Bisaccia.
Bisaccia.
Yeah.
What's his first name?
Rich.
I thought Rick.
Rich.
Not Rich. But it's like, why didn't you keep it? They seem to rally around Bisaccia.
They did rally around Bisaccia, but you can't keep an interim coach as a head coach long term. The intern coach, they bring an energy about the team. The team rallies around that for a while, but long term, you're going to have somebody in there who's innovative, somebody in there who can really draw it up. Rich Bisaccia just wasn't going to be the guy for that. I don't necessarily think McDaniels was the perfect hire, but I definitely understand moving off of Rich.
Yeah, who was this long-time special team.
Skip, but you know how Al loved that Mark might be a chip off his dad's old block. He gonna go get the big name. Mm-hmm. He went and got John. He went and go get John Gruden. Yeah. Al loves name. He loves trophies. Guys that got Heisman. If you got a Heisman trophy, the Raiders go. You might be a 72. If you got a Heisman, Al will get you. He loves Heisman trophy. He loves guys. He loves names. He loves shiny big things.
Yep.
And same thing. That's Josh McDaniels. We got to get Josh McDaniels. You see what he doing in New England? Yeah. But how about the coaches? We keep talking about the players that leave New England. How about the coaches that leave New England? How they do? There's been a lot of them that coach Tom Brady, and when Tom Brady ain't their quarterback, and that's what you need to understand. When y'all go get somebody from New England, the coaching staff, Tom Brady ain't coming with them.
No. And by the way, my theory on that is Belichick does not delegate. He's iron fist.
Yes.
He's going to.
Thank you. It's not just Brady, it's Belichick. Belichick is going to oversee everything going on, and on top of that, you got Brady washing over any mistakes that are done on the offensive side. He's going to make it look a lot better as well. So It's Brady and it's Belichick. You got both of those guys basically cleaning up all of McDaniels, all of Patricia, all of those guys' mistakes were being washed over by Belichick mostly as the guy who was overseeing all of it. When you don't have no Belichick there and it's Josh McDaniels calling it all himself, he's not built for that.
To control everything. But if you got 12 as your quarterback and your buffer in the locker room as your leader of the locker room, you're probably going to win a lot of games.
Of course.
And you're going to win some Super Bowls, and they won 6 of them. But if you're going to try to take chips off the block, there's no block.
Because he runs everything.
He runs everything. They don't even. They're mirages.
Yeah.
They're fabrications.
Yes.
Right? They're fraudulent.
Yes.
Because you can't trust anything that they know.
And even Brady Brady said, man, later for this.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
20 years of this browbeating me and telling me what I ain't doing and trying to minimize my importance to this organization. Man, later for y'all.
I agree. Dangerous to take a shot with any of these assistant coaches because which one of them has ever worked where?
And that's what I was when I was on the old show at CBS. I said, y'all do know Tom Brady's not coming with him now. They're not a package deal. I know sometimes give you, hey, I come to your school, you got to take my homeboy. Or I come here, I need, get a job, I need, such and such.
The Raiders have a lot of guys from the Patriots organization in that front office now, so they will be making calls. They will be trying to get their hands on a top quarterback in the draft, a Tom Brady, a Aaron Rodgers. They're going to make all those phone calls. They're probably going to land with somebody big-time college player or a big-time proven NFL player. They're going to get a name. The Derek Carr's job is going to be replaced by a guy with a big-time name. Whether that guy's better playing the quarterback position than Derek Carr, we'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely going to be a guy whose name has more cachet than a Derek Carr does. Derek Carr will be very successful with whatever team he goes to. You give Derek Carr a better defense, the best defense he's ever had in a Washington with the Commanders, with the Colts, a team that has pieces there, especially on the defensive side, and then Derek Carr can kind of game manage and make throws when he needs to. He's going to take a team, maybe the Jets, and turn that team into a playoff team. Like that's what Derek Carr is capable of. This definitely won't be the last that we hear of the Las Vegas Raiders. They're going to make a lot of noise in the offseason, and this won't be the last of Derek Carr. This is going to be an ongoing story. They play the Niners this weekend. It's going to be that rivalry Niners-Raiders game. It's going to be nothing but Niner fans in the stadium. Niners are probably going to crush them. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how the season ends. If the Raiders are going to want to finish at 5 wins so they could get the best draft pick possible. So we'll just have to see how this goes. Thanks for watching. Until next time, peace.